So I want to do a mini series as part of my SimCity 101 in which we talk about the specializations that are part of the base game. I have used these specializations as part of my gameplay, but we haven't actually done a tutorial on them. I have played and done tutorials on Mega Tower, the Academy, and Omega. So the future specializations that are part of Cities of Tomorrow, we've gone over, but we have not discussed up until this point mining, drilling, electronics, culture, and gambling. I've done a video on trading. Trading is, I consider, a secondary, a support specialization. And you'll notice in 3 of the 5 tutorials that we do, trading is going to be mentioned as part of mining, drilling, and electronics. But what I want to do is I want to go through the base game specializations and just offer some information about them. Let's talk about some tips. Let's go over some strategies in order to help you when you're playing with these specializations. So in this episode, let's talk about drilling. Because of its relatively low cost and ease of getting started, drilling is a good early game specialization to get into. In order to unlock an oil well and start with drilling, you're going to need to provide power, water, oil under the city, and 7 industrial buildings in order to unlock an oil well. The cost of an oil well is 37,500 simoleons, and your hourly rate, a little more than what you would find with drilling, is 150 simoleons per hour. And just like with the drilling, this is for the base oil well. You will get 2 oil pumps, but you will need to add on. If drilling for oil is the specialization that you're wanting to get into, then of course you want to make sure that your city plot has the resource that you're looking for. So part of that process of looking for a city plot is clicking on it and looking to see what it offers. So for oil, this particular city plot has plenty of oil, and it's also got a good amount of water, which is also very helpful when you're getting a brand new city up and running. So you've identified your city that you want to use for your oil specialization. So you can go into your data map, click on the oil map, and locate where your oil deposits are. So this is where you're going to be extracting the oil. Important to keep in mind, oil, just like ore and coal, is not infinite. It's a finite amount. So this is a good early game resource, but at some point you're going to want to start thinking about your next steps for the city. So when you have unlocked your oil well, the key to placing it is you want to make sure that you're placing it in an area where you're going to get the most extraction. So if you look here, you'll see I'm in between the deposits here, and there's nothing. And then once I go back, it starts to fill in the meter. So as long as, and then the other thing that you want to keep in mind is when you place it, you want to place it in such a way that you can maximize the additional oil wells. So it comes with its processing, it comes with some basic storage. I typically like to add a delivery truck. I like the sign, so I'll add a sign. But the basic setup is 2 oil wells. You have the ability to place several more. So what you want to do is you'll draw out a dirt road, and that way you can place, and I'm just placing this for demonstration purposes, but each oil pump jack is 10,000 simoleons. So on top of the initial investment, you may not be able to put all of the pump jacks down immediately. And there's nothing wrong with building up a little bit of profit and then putting down pump jacks as you go along. But what you will eventually get to is the fact that you will have a total of 10 pump jacks pumping the oil out of the ground. You're going to want to put down a trade depot. Your oil well has very limited storage capacity, but you're going to want to start the process of exporting. So your trade depot is how you will accomplish that. So you'll get your trade depot. You will put down the crude oil storage lot. And then there you will export. So the export is 9,000 simoleons per 1,000 barrels. If you have 2 oil wells up and running, I find that one trade depot with 4 crude oil storage lots is enough to handle the incoming capacity of resources from both oil wells, and then you can export out from here. If you've been watching any of my early game videos when I'm just starting a region, this is a very familiar site. This is a great way to inexpensively get started with a specialization in your city. You'll build up tax income to the point where you can afford an oil well, and then each export at 9,000 simoleons. Over time, you will start to build up some funds, which will allow you, as I said, to start adding more pump jacks. You can add a second oil well. You can add 3 or 4 oil wells, and that is a wonderful start to really building up a nice profit. All along, you want to keep in mind the fact that over time, you will notice that your reserves of oil, so as you're pumping out the oil, instead of this area right around the oil well being a solid black color, it will over time start to change and become more of a lighter gray to almost a no gray. It will give you plenty of warning as you're pumping out the oil. It will tell you how many barrels you are bringing out, but it will also give you a time frame. It will say uh, 18 months of supply left, 15 months of supply. So it will start the process of counting down how much supply you have. Knowing that you've got a limited supply of oil, you always want to be thinking about what are your future plans going to be. So if you're wanting to stay in the realm of oil, then you want to export enough oil that allows you to unlock and put down a petroleum headquarters. The petroleum headquarters is going to give you a couple of options as far as what type of division you want to put down. The division, you can put down both. Now you have to unlock them, but what you're wanting to start out with is you're wanting to start out with the refining division. The commerce division is more along the lines of if you're wanting to have, instead of a trade depot, a trade port. But you are already in the process of exporting your oil through the depots. So you're going to want to start the process of taking the oil and refining it into another product. Once you've upgraded your headquarters, you've then unlocked the oil refinery. So you can place your oil refinery, and it's going to give you two options. You can either create plastics, or you can create fuel, or you can do both. My recommendation is you specialize in one or the other. So let's put down a fuel storage lot. Let's put down a plastic lot. And let's compare your export. So if you are exporting plastic, you're going to be exporting plastic at 21,000 simoleons. If you're exporting fuel, you're exporting it at 36,750 simoleons. So if you are looking at it from purely a financial standpoint, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to specialize in, now it's going to come with a plastic unit module. If I were turning this city into a highly specialized city, the specialization that I would be working on would be fuel. It's interesting to note that in sandbox mode, even in sandbox mode, you start out with 1 million simoleons. If you watched my drilling and mining tutorial, you'll notice that I had plenty of funds left over. Getting into the specialization of fuel is a more costly process, so it still is a good early game resource and specialization to get into, but just know that there's going to be a greater dollar amount to get you where you need to be as far as an oil refinery turning the oil into fuel. But if this is the direction that you're wanting to go in that this city is an oil city, then this is a wonderful strategy to implement. So at some point, what you're going to want to do is the footprint of your oil wells, because they're about to go empty anyway. This is a great opportunity to, as they're going empty, you should have some funds built up. You delete the oil well, and in its place, in its footprint, is where you put the oil refinery. Instead of exporting oil, you're going to get to the point where you're importing the oil. The oil that you're importing is going to be sent to the oil refinery, and your oil refinery, you're going to be creating a more refined product, and because of its greater profits, I would be doing fuel, and you're going to be exporting fuel. So your cycle is you would start out a city, get the city to the point where you can afford an oil well, start pumping oil, exporting the oil, get some additional funds where you can add more pump jacks, slowly start to build up your funds, knowing that at some point you're going to be running out of oil in the ground. So you're going to start the process of selling, exporting enough oil where you can get yourself a petroleum headquarters. From there, you're going to add on the petroleum division. You're going to do an oil refinery. And from there, you can decide if you want to do plastics or fuel. But in this demonstration, I was leaning towards the fuel because of the greater profits. But that is a really nice way to, if you're wanting this city to be a city that specializes in oil, that is one way to do it. But just know you've got various options. I start a city out with oil, but instead of going in the route of an oil refinery, I take those profits and I go in the direction of electronics processors, because it is a cleaner, less polluting, and higher profit scenario. But really, it's up to you to have fun with it and maybe experiment. Do a little bit of petroleum, see how you like it. Do plastics, do fuel. If you want, switch from oil to electronics. But it's really up to you to have fun with. But that's just a little bit of information, a little bit of strategy, tips, and a guide on how to get started with the oil drilling specialization. So I hope this helps. If you've got any questions, please post your questions. I'm more than likely going to be doing follow-up videos as I go along and realize or notice that there's additional things that I want to cover. But once again, I hope this helps. Please have fun, enjoy the game, and we will see you next time.